Everyone wants to point out that everything is IP-based these days and Hollywood is running out of ideas, but in 1985, over 40 fucking years ago, we as a society were already resorting to making movies based on board games. So while it is unfortunate for many fans that this movie was not a bigger box office hit, Clue bombing saved us from years of movies based on games like Monopoly, Risk, and Connect 4. And Clue still found a large and very dedicated audience. So quit your whining, Clue fans. It all fucking worked out. But also, because Clue bombed, we never did get a Hungry Hippos movie, and that makes me sad. Also, we're well aware that the original name of the board game was Cluedo, but we're not going to call it that because the British. Let's just get this out of the way. For those that don't know, Clue was originally released to theaters with 3 different endings. You would get a random ending at whichever screening you went to. This ended up being the movie's downfall since it pissed people off that they might not be seeing the correct resolution, or that they were smart enough to realize if one could create 3 endings for the same mystery, there wasn't a correct resolution. Anyways, here's 3 sins for each ending and humanity not being able to hold more than one truth in their brain at a time. Movie will spend all the some time showing us Wadsworth inserting a key to open the gate, along with the gate fully opening to presumably set up a future scene involving the gate that never comes. Wadsworth thinks this minimal scraping of poop from his shoe is in any way sufficient. This might be the biggest sin in the whole movie, in case you confused it with Old English 800. Enough of the character smell his poo shoe that you end up prepared for a running joke and eventual payoff, but it just ends up not being a thing, even though I'll think about the poo shoe every time Wadsworth is walking on carpet. Dresses that say "F you" to peripheral vision.
Wait a minute, let me look at that.
This snatch doesn't contain a Brad Pitt. I plagiarized that one from my college girlfriend. Considering how much it's raining and the fact that Mr. Green isn't carrying an umbrella, he appears to be very dry.
Why is the car stopped?
It's frightened.
For this metaphor, the car is being played by Christopher Lloyd's penis. Doc Brown would never.
Professor Plum, and Miss Scarlet, I didn't realize you were acquainted.
The bigger question for me is how Wadsworth even knew Professor Plum and Miss Scarlet were waiting outside, since neither had knocked or rang the bell yet.
The butler is head of the kitchen and dining room.
My butler is head of the entire household. Wadsworth doesn't know how to buddle, or pretend to buddle, or do whatever the script is attempting to do with buddling in order to distract from all the clues about what is going on correctly.
Well, someone's got to break the ice, and it might as well be me. I mean, I'm used to being a hostess. It's part of my husband's work.
We can't play all this dialogue spewing forth from Mrs. Peacock, but trust me when I say, Eileen f***ing Brennan.
I know who you are.
Going back to the 3 endings situation, the 3rd ending is entitled What Really Happened, and in that ending we find out that Mr. Green is not in fact Mr. Green, but an FBI agent undercover trying to suss out a blackmail ring. So with that knowledge, why the f*** is he egging on Mrs. Peacock here? Isn't the whole point of being undercover to not bring any unnecessary attention to yourself? Because if so, Mr. Green is failing.
This is one of my favorite recipes.
It can be your favorite dish, but I call bullshit on anyone identifying an exact recipe by taste.
I work for UNO, the United Nations Organization.
Pronouncing uno, you know?
Wadsworth, where's our host and why we've been brought here?
Script just rang the doorbell as if it was tired of its own dialogue.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. Body?
Why am I all of a sudden feeling like it's the decline of Western civilization once Mr. Body walked in the room? Weird.
Please help yourself to brandy and be seated.
Hold up, I was told there would be...
Coffee and brandy.
One of the two will not suffice.
You can't get out that way. Why not? It's only glass.
Where did this Doberman Pinscher come from? The dogs at the beginning were German Shepherds?
I run a specialized hotel and a telephone service which provide gentlemen with the company of a young lady for a short while.
Oh, yeah? What's the phone number?
Doc Brown would never.
Your first husband also disappeared.
But that was his job. He was an illusionist.
But he never reappeared.
He wasn't a very good illusionist.
The dialogue in this movie rules.
I work for the State Department, and I'm a homosexual. I must keep it a secret or I will lose my job on security grounds.
The 1950 State Department, and no other state departments after that, because everything is fine now.
Point of order, tape recordings are not admissible evidence.
They can be, depending on your specific state's laws, whether or not you can prove authenticity, and how you plan to use it in court, and an undercover federal agent should know that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the police will be here in about 45 minutes.
Arbitrary ticking and fake clock cliche. Also, we will discover that Wadsworth didn't call the police and is behind a lot of this, at least according to the 3rd ending. However, going back to the Mr. Green as an undercover FBI agent part, we will find out FBI agents and the police have been there or nearby this whole time. So now that Wadsworth has spilled all the blackmail secrets and there's a chance that some murder or at least violence could break out at any minute, why isn't Green called in the feds?
A candlestick. What's this for?
I know this is a clever nod to all the possible weapons in the Clue board game, but in a real-life scenario, what is the point of gifting these random objects to potentially use to murder Wadsworth? Why not just give them all guns? And Mr. Body is definitely not opposed to guns because he gifts a gun to one of them, not to mention a knife.
He has the key to the front door, which he said would only be opened over his dead body.
Or you could, restrain his body and get the key that way. It's 7 against 1. Not really sure why murder is the only option.
The only way to avoid finding yourselves on the front pages is for one of you to kill Wadsworth.
And you must do it in complete darkness for reasons. Also, after the lights come up, everyone will assume that someone killed Mr. Body on purpose, instead of the much more plausible excuse that no one could see and the victim could have just as easily been any of them. Also, the most confusing part of this sequence is not who tried to kill Mr. Body, but how the room was in total darkness when we see later that there was a fire burning in the fireplace.
Sit down, Mrs.
I had to stop her from screaming.
You did not.
He decided to put his information to good use and make a little money out of it. What could be more American than that? Don't touch it! That's evidence.
Making excuses for other people not to touch it, just so you can be the one to touch it.
It was you, Mrs. Peacock, wasn't it?
Yes, but I put it down. Before I fainted, after I fainted. I don't know.
Except Mrs. Peacock didn't faint in the study just now when someone tried to kill Mr. Body. She faints later after the actual dead corpse of Mr. Body is discovered.
Life after death is as improbable as sex after marriage.
Citation needed.
Okay, put the corpses on the sofa.
There is no reason given for why the corpses need to be on the sofa. It's all just so we get this funny moving dead bodies scene, which also fails to be funny.
The gun, the rope, the wrench, the lead pipe. Let's put them all in this cupboard and lock it.
I get why they're locking up the gun, but what do the other objects matter? There would be heavy objects all over this house that would be just as easy to use as the wrench and the lead pipe. And what the good is the rope anyway? Who's picking that over, say, a knife from the kitchen?
Wadsworth, let me out.
Mrs. White asked to be let out a moment after the door was just opened. This happens enough times that this is starting to qualify as a Stanford prison experiment. They could have all left if they wanted to.
Mrs. White, no man in his right mind will be alone together with you.
That's Madeline Connist. They draw lots to determine the pairs for searching the house, and groups end up being Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet, Mrs. White and Wadsworth, Yvette and Mr. Green, and Mrs. Peacock and Professor Plum. They are all matched up man and woman, which is statistically unlikely and narratively unnecessary.
Just come from the library.
You just came from the kitchen, sir.
What room's this?
Search me.
Right?
Sure, life and death situations can result in arousal, but this is f***ing ridiculous, Colonel. Creepy Gothic mansions have rats in the cellar cliche. Clue managed to make Michael McKean's and Tim Curry's stunt doubles look like them even less than any of Roger Moore's stunt doubles in A View to a Kill. Also released in 1985, I might add. What was going on with a stunt double casting in 1985? A documentary on that would at least be better than A View to a Kill. The convenience of no one being under any part of the giant chandelier when it falls is a bullshit amount of convenience. Also, the light level in this room does not change at all, even though they just lost a huge source of light when the chandelier crashed.
Good evening, sir.
That's racist.
I found an abandoned car down near the gates of this house.
This cop ends up being one of Mr. Body's accomplices, and so presumably would have been coming to this house intentionally. But in an earlier scene, we see the cop discovering the motorist's broken down car. I guess he could have been headed to the mansion, discovered the car, and then decided to use that as his excuse, but what if there hadn't been a broken down car? It would make the most sense that he would act like the cop that Wadsworth called, but that never happens. And he just comes in and uses the phone and gets killed. And yes, the motorist is also one of the accomplices. How Mr. Body was able to orchestrate these two accomplices' murders, not to mention the third one we'll talk about later, is perplexing to say the least. Also, what about Miss Scarlet's car, which is also broken down on the side of the road? How did the police officer miss her vehicle? The officer hears none of this.
Let me out of here! You have no right to shut me in!
It's extremely odd he didn't do this the first time he realized the door was locked.
Why is J. Edgar Hoover on your phone? I didn't know. He's on everybody else's. Why shouldn't he be on mine?
Funny joke, but it's crazy that they all accept this answer. Also, are they now under the impression this is Wadsworth's house? Why wouldn't they just assume that phone call is for whomever owns the house? The cop never even says who J. Edgar Hoover asked for. And more on this phone call later. Touching a police officer without his explicit consent.
Come with me. I'll show you the dining room, or the kitchen, or the ballroom.
And I'm an undercover federal agent, and I should tell you this when we get to a more private area of the house, but I'm not going to because I have to keep presenting myself to the viewing audience as a possible murder suspect. Not sure why I just said viewing audience. That was super weird. We can't play the music, but Shaboom by the Crew Cuts is clearly playing on the record player. A record that is clearly labeled Decca Records. However, the Crew Cuts were under contract with Mercury Records. And no, I would rather not explain how I know that. There's pretty obvious blood splatter on Mr. Body's head that the officer should be able to see from where he's standing, but somehow he doesn't. She seriously couldn't have removed the purse from her wrist? So they lock the officer in the library again because they still want to go search the house, even though they could just wait for the officer to finish his phone call and then leave, or at the very least, Wadsworth could stay on the ground floor in case he has to let the officer out again, but none of these rational things occur.
It's you!
Someone actually used the fucking rope.
I am your singing telegram.
The execution here is so simple, and it involves murder, but it's one of the funniest sequences in movie history. And it involves Jane Windland of the Go-Go's. Not sure if that's a sin or not. Our lips are sealed.
I know who did it, and furthermore, I'm going to tell you how it was all done.
We're about to spend a little over 20 minutes with Tim Curry giving us his best Butler Sherlock Holmes impression, spouting off who done it, why done it, and how done it. We'll find some stuff to sin, and it definitely buttles on for all the some time, but it is all the glorious some time. And I have to remove 1 + 2 + 2 + 1 cents.
Waiting to offer you all a glass of champagne.
That is not champagne. At least I hope not. Not served out of that whiskey decanter. The amount of fecal matter Wadsworth is probably still spreading around this house with his shoe.
How did you know?
This house belongs to a friend of mine I've known all along.
Not to mention, up until now, they think Wadsworth is the fucking butler at this house, so it might be weirder if he didn't know.
Don't be ridiculous. If I was the murderer, why would I reveal to you how I did it?
However, we'll find out in the third ending that Wadsworth did kill the singing telegram girl, so he sort of is doing that.
I know that the cook had worked for one of you.
Who?
You recognized Yvette, didn't you?
Weird obnoxious segue to talking about Mrs. White's issues with Yvette after leaving them hanging on who the cook worked for is weird and obnoxious. Wadsworth comes out of this fall unconcussed.
Bad luck that motorist arrived at that moment.
It wasn't luck. I invited him.
If the motorist was invited, why did he actually wreck his car? I know he said it just wouldn't start, but when the officer came across it, it appears to be up on a rock or something. Was he concerned one of the blackmailees would walk all the way down to the main road in the pouring rain to make sure he was telling the truth?
He was my driver during the war.
And what was he holding over you?
Colonel Mustard has no reason or incentive to confess his crime here, but yet he does.
Was the policeman working for Mr. Body, too?
The cop was from Washington. He was on my payroll.
Miss Scarlett has no reason or incentive to confess her crime here, but yet she does.
And the singing telegram girl?
She was my patient once.
Professor Plum has no reason or incentive to, you know what, I think you get it.
On the desk was the envelope from Mr. Body. It contained photographs and letters. The evidence of Mr. Body's network of informants.
And considering how vital that information was to tonight's proceedings, why did Wadsworth leave it lying on the table where anyone could snag it? That would have been a hell of a lot more important to lock up than the fucking rope.
Oh, whoever it is, they gotta go away or they'll be killed!
These people talk way too loudly when there are strangers just on the other side of the door.
Good evening.
Sudden Johnny fever.
But your souls are in danger.
Our lives are in danger, you beatnik.
The word beatnik was coined by a San Francisco Chronicle columnist in 1958. This movie is set in 1954. I never knew how much a pamphlet could piss me off, but god damn it, this one does. Here it falls through the door onto the floor, but it's already missing just a few seconds later. And Mr. Green opens the door, it's still not fucking there. Third ending, not fucking there. And then when Peacock goes outside in the second ending, the chief is holding something in his goddamn hand. Fuck these pamphlets.
She thought he was dead, and while we all examined the bullet hole, she crept into the study, picked up the dagger.
Wait, what? First off, how would Yvette know that Mrs. Peacock dropped the knife by the door? Secondly, how is it possible no one noticed her doing this? Do none of these assholes have peripheral vision? Not everyone is even looking straight at the bullet hole. And thirdly, why would Yvette take the chance of being seen by grabbing a knife from the study when there are fucking knives in the kitchen where she was going to kill the cook? Also, how did Yvette get the cook's dead body from here to standing up in the freezer? And why would she even take the time to do that?
We didn't hear the cook scream because Mrs. Peacock was screaming about the poisoned brandy.
Oh.
Then, in the dark, you've got the lead pipe and the rope. Strangled Yvette.
I'm sorry, I'm still cracking up about the rope.
The gun is missing. Gentlemen, turn out your pockets. Ladies, empty your purses.
Why didn't Wadsworth start with this tactic? This would definitely have made a long story short. Too late!
You're a communist!
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring.
No, it's just f***ing communism.
We could expose you. 6 murders.
Wadsworth already explained that Yvette killed Mr. Body and the cook. So that means Miss Scarlett is responsible for 4 murders and not 6. Professor Plum is either terrible at math or a liar, and I will sit him for both.
That's 1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
Even if you were right, that would be 1 + 1 + 2 + 1, not 1 + 2 + 1 + 1.
Well, now you have 1 + 2 + 1 + 1 math sins. Mr. Green runs to answer this door as if he knows it's the police, but at least in this ending, he wouldn't know that. For all he knows, that's more of Miss Scarlet's accomplices behind the door.
Frankly, Scarlet, I don't give a damn.
Doing Gone with the Wind when a mighty wind is much more your speed. Reading.
You murdered them all.
But if that's the case, then Mrs. Peacock would have been the one to turn off the power. And when the power went out earlier, we saw Mrs. Peacock still in the cellar trying to beat up a pipe. Also, Mrs. Peacock would had to have known about the secret passage to go through and kill the motorist. But Mrs. Peacock had never been to Hill House before and would not have known about the secret passage. The only people who should have known were Wadsworth, maybe Yvette, and Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet when they happened upon it.
You were the person who was missing when the cook and Mr. Body were murdered.
They actually do not show her in the kitchen after the cook is discovered, so the Mr. Body murder is possible. However, if the cook was killed when they were examining the bullet hole, then Mrs. Peacock is clearly in the room with them. And weirdly, the one person we don't see here is Wadsworth.
And monkey's brains, though popular in Cantonese cuisine, are not often to be found in Washington, D.C.
Is that what we ate?
Between 1984's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and 1985's Clue, did America have a fear of monkey brains? That's the most bizarre connection between two movies since Yentl and Friday the 13th Part 3.
No, communism was just a red herring.
Nope, it's still just f***ing communism.
Ladies, empty your purses.
Why is Miss Scarlet carrying an empty handbag? We even saw her pull a cigarette case from it earlier, so why is empty?
For she's a jolly good fellow.
This song for She's a Jolly Good Fellow's on for all the some time.
Okay, take her away.
Did the FBI set up spotlights outside a brightly lit mansion? F***ing why?
You see, it's like the Mantis. We always get our man.
That's sexist.
Would anyone care for fruit or dessert?
There are still 6 corpses in that house, so there has to be at least the early signs of a rotting stench. Who's eating f***ing fruit or dessert in there? Once again, if there are 2 other possibilities, then there is no way to know what really happened.
Let's consider each murder one by one.
They didn't do this 3 times, I don't think the movie would have reached feature length. And I say that knowing when the movie was first released, they showed a different ending at each screening instead of all 3.
You knew that Mr. Body was still alive. Even psychiatrists can tell the difference between patients who are alive or dead.
Makes 0 sense that none of them came to this conclusion before now.
That's right! He was the missing person in the kitchen!
Which is true, but we were shown in the second ending Mrs. Peacock wasn't in the kitchen either the whole time. So why were both of them gone? And how did no one notice this before?
You made one fatal mistake. Sitting here at dinner.
This is the monkey's brain comment again, blah, blah, blah. But what I don't understand is why Wadsworth felt the need at this moment to take them all back to the dining room to explain this.
You hurried downstairs and turned off the electricity, got the rope from the open cupboard, and throttled Yvette.
I'm very confused as to how Mrs. White could have killed Yvette, since when we saw Yvette entering the billiards room earlier, it was a couple of seconds after we saw Mrs. White screaming upstairs. For an ending that is supposedly what really happened, it's odd it has more holes than the previous 2.
Colonel Mustard.
When we saw the motorist at the front door, you took the key to the weapons cupboard out of my pocket.
That's impressive, considering Colonel Mustard was 2 people back from Wadsworth at the door when the motorist showed up and couldn't have possibly taken the key. Also, we will see that Colonel Mustard took the key just to get the wrench? Once again, there are blunt objects all over your average house. Why go through all this trouble and potentially get caught trying to snag the key if you aren't at least grabbing the gun?
I hated her so much. It flames on the side of my face.
Madeline Kahn.
The gun is missing. Whoever's got the gun shot the girl.
Considering Mr. Green is actually carrying a gun in this ending, this doesn't seem like the best way to go about proving his innocence.
I'm grateful to you all for disposing of my network of spies and informers.
But Wadsworth kind of f***ed that plan up when he shot the singing telegram. He now has no body to associate with Mr. Green. Also, this is a crazy convoluted plan that could have gone wrong in so many ways, but somehow did not. Not everyone is a goddamn murderer. How did Wadsworth even know any of them would be willing to kill? Other than maybe Mrs. White, since she's already killed off some husbands, presumably.
A plant? I thought men like you were usually called a fruit.
Very funny.
It is not.
That phone call from J. Edgar Hoover was for me.
But why? And how? If the phone call was for Mr. Green, then why was Wadsworth on the phone with Hoover for so long? And didn't that clue Wadsworth in as to Mr. Green being a plant? And why would J. Edgar Hoover call his agent that was working undercover at the goddamn place he's working undercover at?
I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife.
Can a final line in a movie be both awesome and super cringe? Because I think Clue just proved that it can. Also, Pixar didn't happen. You know, because, point of order, audio recordings are inadmissible as evidence.
Oh, don't make me sing.
Is everything ready?
Oui, monsieur.
It is. It's a bit nipply out. I mean nippy out. What did I say, nipple?
Everything all right, Mrs. Ho?
Who you calling a hoe? I ain't no hoe.
It is Colonel Mustard, isn't it?
No, that's not my name. My name is
John Cock Toast.
Where are you going?
I'm gonna get some semen online and I'm gonna inseminate myself.
I have something to say. I'm not going to wait for Wadsworth here to unmask me.
I went to the petting zoo and I let the goat lick my penis.
Gentlemen, pipe them out.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
In your hands, you each have a lethal weapon.
I feel like Danny Glover before he got too old for this shit.
She had friends who were socialists.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
How can you make jokes at a time like this?
The whole world's a joke to me.